Nigeria is a country of immense complexity, a vibrant tapestry woven from hundreds of ethnic groups and languages. To really understand the story of Boko Haram, we have to look at the threads that make up this nation. Historically, the north was governed by powerful Islamic emirates, a world apart from the southern protectorates managed by the British. When these very different regions were brought together into a single colony in 1914, it wasn't a union of equals. This set up a fundamental imbalance that's echoed through the decades, leaving deep-seated divisions that still persist today, almost like a ghost in the machine of the modern state. The British, focusing their efforts on the resource-rich South, invested heavily in Western-style education and infrastructure there. The North was mostly left to its traditional structures. Over time, this educational gap became a real chasm. While the South produced administrators, lawyers, and doctors, many in the North were left without the tools to compete in this new Nigeria. Poverty in northern Nigeria isn't just a statistic, it's a lived, daily experience for millions. Young people grow up seeing limited horizons, where the promise of a better life feels like a distant, almost unattainable dream. In Nigeria, politics and religion are often inseparable. The country is roughly split between a predominantly Muslim north and largely Christian south. The introduction of Sharia law in 12 northern states starting in 1999 deepened the sense of a nation divided. This religious tension was poured into a cauldron already boiling with political corruption. For decades, Nigeria's vast oil wealth has been systematically siphoned off by a kleptocratic elite, creating a level of inequality that is staggering to behold. People saw local politicians enriching themselves while basic services crumbled. The police were often seen as predators, and the justice system felt broken, leaving ordinary people feeling utterly abandoned. This created a powerful narrative of victimhood and betrayal. It wasn't just about being poor, it was about feeling that their poverty was a direct result of a corrupt, godless system that had failed them on every level. When people lose faith in their government, police, and courts, they begin to look elsewhere for justice, order, and meaning. It's precisely this sort of spiritual and political vacuum that allows radical ideologies to take root. Into this landscape of disillusionment stepped Muhammad Yusuf. He wasn't a wild-eyed fanatic at first, but a calm, articulate, and compelling speaker who founded his group in Maiduguri around 2002. The locals gave it a succinct nickname, Boko Haram. In the Hausa language, commonly interpreted as Western education is forbidden, encapsulating Yusuf's rejection of the Nigerian state. Yusuf's early goals weren't overtly violent. He positioned his movement as a project of social and religious purification, offering his followers what the state did not: belonging, moral code, and support. His sermons resonated powerfully with the young, poor, and uneducated who for the first time felt seen and heard. He offered them a simple explanation for their suffering: the system was rotten and he had the answer. For many young men with no jobs and prospects, his commune became a surrogate family. They were no longer forgotten youths. They were soldiers in a righteous cause, disciples of a man who promised to restore dignity to the downtrodden. The turning point came in July 2009. Nigerian security forces launched a massive, heavy-handed assault on Yusuf's compound. The operation was brutal and indiscriminate, resulting in hundreds of deaths. Muhammad Yusuf was captured, paraded before media, and hours later was dead. The official story was escape attempt, but footage suggested extrajudicial execution while in police custody. His death wasn't the end of Boko Haram, it was the birth of its martyrdom narrative. He became the ultimate proof of his teachings, slain by the very corrupt state he had preached against. A new, more ruthless leader emerged, Abubakar Shekau. Where Yusuf had been a preacher who used ideology to build community, Shekau was a warlord who used terror to forge an army. Under Shekau, they began a campaign of bombings, assassinations, and mass casualty attacks, targeting not only security forces but churches, mosques, markets, and schools, the very symbols of society they sought to annihilate. For young men with no education, jobs, or future, the insurgency offered what the state could not: salary, purpose, and power. The group's message was seductively simple: the government has failed you, we are fighting for you. The infamous Chibok schoolgirls kidnapping in 2014 served a chilling purpose, a brazen display of power, demonstrating that the Nigerian state was impotent to protect its own citizens. The government's initial response was plagued by underestimation, denial, and incompetence. Heavy-handed military tactics alienated the local population and created new recruits for Boko Haram. People were caught between Boko Haram's terror on one side and brutalization by forces sent to defend them on the other, leaving them with nowhere to turn. The human cost is almost impossible to comprehend. Over a decade of violence has resulted in tens of thousands of deaths and displacement of millions, who now live in overcrowded camps dependent on humanitarian aid. The social fabric has been torn apart. Trust has been shattered not only between communities and the state, but within communities themselves. Neighbors have been pitted against neighbors. There's growing recognition that military victory alone won't end this conflict. The focus is shifting toward addressing root causes, rebuilding schools, clinics, and infrastructure, while providing de-radicalization programs. The road to lasting peace is long and uncertain. The ultimate solution lies in tackling the endemic poverty, corruption, and lack of education that allowed the insurgency to flourish, creating a society where young people see a future in a classroom, not in the barrel of a gun.